Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Authorities in the Australian state of Victoria say that a 25-year-old man is in custody this week after he led police on a high-speed chase, one which allegedly ended with him torching the stolen vehicle he was driving. According to reports, the incident began at around 12:35 p.m. on June 21st, when police spotted the suspect, who has not been identified by name, driving a Lexus sedan on Manchester Road in the Melbourne suburb of Mooroolbark. When a record search revealed that the vehicle had been stolen sometime last year, they attempted to pull the 25-year-old over. However, instead of stopping, the driver allegedly rammed a police patrol car and drove off, prompting a chase. The suspect drove through several suburbs heading southeast while being pursued by officers who were aided by a police helicopter. The 25-year-old finally stopped in the town of Cockatoo, where he allegedly set the stolen vehicle on fire at the side of the road before attempting to continue his escape on foot. Unfortunately for the suspect, locals, including a volunteer firefighter named John Hillis, saw the direction he ran. When officers arrived at the scene, Hillis, who was already tending to the raging car fire, was able to point them in the right direction. The 25-year-old was found not long after hiding underneath a vehicle on a neighboring property and was placed under arrest. At the time of this recording, it appears police have yet to announce formal charges against him. An exasperated Thai family is hoping that bringing their story to the public will finally result in some action this week, after they say that they were recently the victims of a devastating theft at a shady hotel, and so far, police have left them in the dark. According to reports, the situation began a couple of months ago on April 26th, when 43-year-old Asana Kanku, his wife, and their 1-year-old daughter checked into the hotel in question in the Muang Kanchanaburi district. They had traveled there from their home in the southern province of Songkhla, and the hotel was just supposed to be a brief stop on part of a larger trip to visit Asana's younger brother. After getting settled in their room, the family went out to grab some dinner, returning at 11 p.m. They went to sleep, with the safety of their accommodations being the last thing on their mind. The hotel security guard station was even located close by to their room, giving them extra peace of mind. However, when Asana and his wife awoke the next day, they realized that they had been the victims of a burglary. The culprit had made off with cash, a gold necklace, a diamond ring, and other jewelry worth more than 700,000 baht, or about $20,000 US. The thing was, though, Asana was sure that their valuables had been there before they went to sleep, and the door to the room was still locked when they woke up. After venturing outside, Asana met with another man named Pinyo, who was staying in a neighboring room, and said that he had also been the victim of a burglary. Several hundred US dollars worth of cash from his wallet had vanished overnight in an almost identical fashion. The two men reportedly began helping each other to check their rooms, only to make a startling discovery. There were secret doors inside the hotel rooms which had been disguised to look like mirrors. When Asana and Pinyo walked around the complex to the exterior walls, they not only found where these doors were located, they realized that they could only be locked and unlocked from the outside. When the men spoke to the hotel owner, he apparently argued that they couldn't prove their stolen valuables existed in the first place, and denied any responsibility. He also allegedly claimed that the secret doors had been created to help mistresses escape from their lovers' partners. The case was reportedly brought to police, who found footprints and fingerprints left on the doors in nearby air conditioning units. However, since then, Asana says no progress in the case has been made, and he and his family have been left in the dark by investigators. After trying to follow up several times and allegedly getting no answers, Asana took his story to local media out of desperation, hoping that it might help to generate new leads, or at the very least, warn others about his family's experience. So far, it appears police have not commented further on the situation. Officials in Cambodia say that a Chinese couple is in custody and facing charges this week following the disturbing discovery of the remains of a 33-year-old South Korean internet personality. According to reports, the case began on June 6th when the body of a woman was found in Kandal province in a village just outside the nation's capital of Phnom Penh. The woman's remains had been wrapped in a red sheet and was discovered in a shallow puddle of water. The victim has since been identified as 33-year-old Byun Ah-young, a South Korean singer, DJ, and live streamer. Byun had amassed more than 250,000 followers on social media before announcing earlier this year that she was stepping away from her online fame and wanted to live life as a normal person. Following an investigation, detectives reportedly discovered that Byun's last known location was an illegal medical clinic in the capital. The clinic's owners, who have since been identified as Chinese nationals, 30-year-old Lei Wenxiao and his girlfriend, 39-year-old Kai Hee-juan, were subsequently arrested. During questioning, Lei and Kai apparently admitted that Byun had died at their clinic a few days prior. They claimed that Byun had suffered a fatal seizure while being given a saline drip, after which they panicked and disposed of her body. However, local investigators say they believe that there is more to the story. Citing multiple injuries found on Byun's body during an autopsy, which reportedly included extensive facial injuries, deep lacerations, burns, and bruises, they alleged that the 33-year-old was murdered. At the time of this recording, an investigation is still underway, and police say that they are still working to understand the full circumstances of what happened. They also say that Byun was traveling with a companion when she entered Cambodia, whom they are actively trying to get in contact with. Authorities on the Greek island of Kos say that a 32-year-old man is in custody facing murder charges this week after the remains of a Polish woman were found several days after she went missing. According to reports, Anastasia Patricia Rubinska was last seen just before 11 p.m. on June 12th when she attended a party. The 27-year-old was originally from the Polish city of Wrocław, though she had traveled to Greece to work in the restaurant of a 5-star hotel on Kos during her summer holidays. That evening, Anastasia texted her 28-year-old boyfriend several times. In some of these messages, she apparently said that she was feeling uncomfortable and thought that she had had too much to drink, though later said that everything was fine and that she would be getting a ride from a man on a motorbike to meet him. When Anastasia failed to show up, the worried boyfriend contacted police. For the next several days, authorities reportedly conducted a search, combing through the missing 27-year-old's cell phone records and trying to retrace her steps. Eventually, they uncovered 2 pieces of surveillance footage from the day of her disappearance, which appeared to show Anastasia leaving a cafe and a shop with a man. He was later identified as a 32-year-old Bangladeshi national named Salahuddin S. When authorities questioned Salahuddin, he claimed that he and Anastasia had a consensual romantic encounter, after which he dropped her off and they went their separate ways. However, by this time, police knew, thanks to the 27-year-old's cell records, that its last location was a different place than the location she had agreed to meet her boyfriend. Sadly, on June 18th, investigators announced that they had found Anastasia's remains. Her nude, lifeless body was found inside of a trash bag, which had been concealed underneath a tree and some branches somewhere on the outskirts of the village of Marmari. She had been strangled to death, and her body allegedly showed signs that she had been restrained with handcuffs. Nearby, authorities also found the 27-year-old's cell phone, which was missing its SIM card. It's now theorized that the murder took place at an abandoned house less than a mile away from where the remains were discovered. A subsequent search of Salahuddin's residence revealed knives, a yellow sweater with stains and blonde hair, and an airline ticket to Italy which had been purchased after Anastasia's disappearance. DNA found in the home was reportedly matched to the 27-year-old victim. Salahuddin was arrested and is now facing murder charges in the case. Disturbingly, police believe that the 32-year-old may have forced Anastasia to send the text messages to her boyfriend saying that she was okay prior to the murder to delay the search for her. At the time of this recording, the situation is still under investigation. Representatives from Taiwan's Tainan City Police Department say that a 32-year-old man was left with quite the embarrassing injury after he recently attempted to carry out a terrifying attack at a local business. According to reports, the incident began at around 1 p.m. on June 2nd, when the suspect, identified as a 32-year-old man by the last name of Lin, traveled to a seafood store in the city's South District. Video surveillance taken from outside the business shows Lin pulling up in a silver Toyota Yaris before exiting the vehicle with a rifle. He then begins firing wildly at the front of the store. In an attempt to protect those inside, it appears that employees began closing the automated shutters on the business's doors and windows. Lin had fired at least 23 shots when suddenly another vehicle pulled up behind him. Unbeknownst to the 32-year-old, it was an unmarked police car with several officers inside. One of them quickly fired at Lin from the back seat. The bullet struck Lin in his right butt cheek, causing him to drop the weapon and crumpled to the ground. He was taken into custody immediately afterwards. Thankfully, it appears no one else was injured. While it appears that little else has been released about the case at the current time, local media sources allege that police were able to show up to the scene so quickly because they had obtained information about the attack in advance. The motive behind the terrifying shooting remains unclear, though these same sources state that Lin has previous convictions for drugs, theft, and assault. At the time of this recording, authorities say that the investigation continues. Representatives from Japan's Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department say that they are searching for the culprit or culprits behind a recent burglary after they discovered that the man they arrested in connection with the case had actually been hired to commit the crime on someone else's behalf. According to reports, the incident began roughly 2 months ago when the suspect, 35-year-old Masaki Omori, saw a posting on social media for a job promising a big payday. The description was vague, and when Omori inquired, he learned that the work wasn't exactly what he expected. The poster wanted him to break into a specific shop in Tokyo's famous Akihabara shopping hub. The store in question sold lots of different items, but the unknown person was only interested in one thing. He wanted Omori to steal their Pokemon cards. Though this was obviously illegal, Omori was apparently in no position to turn down the money. He had substantial gambling debts, and the poster promised him a sizable amount of cash once the job was completed. So it was that on April 11th, Omori reportedly flew from his home in Okinawa to Ibaraki Prefecture. From there, he rented a car, driving the rest of the way into Tokyo. The following morning, at around 5 a.m., he allegedly smashed his way into the target business, making off with 1,500 Pokemon cards worth an estimated 1.15 million yen, or about $8,100. After the burglary, Omori reportedly headed to a pre-arranged rendezvous spot where he handed over the loot to a person the poster had put him in contact with. He was told that he would receive his share of the profits at a different meetup point. However, when he arrived there, no one showed up. This week, Omori was arrested by Tokyo police following an investigation. That's when he revealed his side of the story, and investigators say that they are now trying to uncover the identity of the person or people responsible for setting up the crime. The case has brought renewed attention to an issue that has received a lot of media coverage in Japan as of late. That is, so-called dark part-time jobs, referred to locally as yamibaito. Like in this case, these are most often promoted on social media, where scammers and other criminal groups promise high pay for completing one-time, high-risk and illegal jobs. Oftentimes, it's younger people and teenagers that these culprits are after, who they view as being easier to allure with the promise of easy money, and whom the justice system usually tends to treat with more leniency. Just last month, one such high-profile incident captured the attention of millions across the country when 3 men wearing masks brazenly robbed a luxury watch store in Tokyo's high-end Ginza ward. The crime took place in broad daylight, with the men smashing their way into display cases with crowbars in full view of confused and terrified onlookers. Though the men reportedly made off with over $700,000 worth of watches, they and their getaway driver were arrested less than 2 miles away from the crime scene. All of them were between the ages of 16 and 19, and apparently only met each other right before the robbery. At the same time, the skyrocketing prices of Pokemon cards in Japan right now means that they've become an increasingly attractive target for these kinds of crimes. It remains to be seen exactly how authorities plan to combat this growing problem. Authorities in the German state of Bavaria say that a 30-year-old man is in custody and facing murder charges this week following a terrifying attack in which he pushed two fellow American tourists into a large gorge at a popular historic site. According to reports, the incident took place sometime on June 14th at the Neuschwanstein Castle, located in the south of the country close to the border with Austria. For those unfamiliar, the castle was reportedly built in 1869 by the then King of Bavaria, Ludwig II. The landmark apparently attracts over 1 million tourists a year and is known for its picturesque views. Like many others, 21-year-old Eva Liu and 22-year-old Lisa Chang had come to visit the attraction that day, making their way onto the Marienbrücke Bridge, which is known to have some of the best views of the castle. It was here that they reportedly met the suspect, identified only as a 30-year-old American man. While it's not exactly clear what happened next, multiple reports suggest that the suspect lured the young women onto a secluded hiking trail. It was here that he allegedly tried to sexually assault them. When Liu and Chang fought back, the attack apparently became even more brutal. Chang was the first to be pushed off the trail and down the side of the steep gorge as she tried to defend Liu. Liu was pushed herself moments later, falling a terrifying 50 meters, or approximately 165 feet. After a daring rescue, made extremely difficult by the terrain, both victims were airlifted to a hospital. Sadly, Liu died of her injuries the following day, though miraculously, it seems that Chang survived. As for the suspect, he was captured following an extensive manhunt the same day of the incident. He remains in custody at this time and is now facing charges including murder, attempted murder, as well as sexual offenses. People across Honduras are reportedly demanding answers this week following a terrifying and deadly riot at a women's prison that so far has claimed the lives of more than 40 people. According to reports, the incident began on the morning of June 20th at the CEFAS correctional facility in the town of Tamara, located about a 30-minute drive outside the capital of Tegucigalpa. At around 8 a.m., authorities say that guards were removed from the facility by a group of inmates belonging to the notorious Barrio 18 gang, who proceeded to take control of the prison. Armed with guns, machetes, and even explosives, the gang members reportedly left their area of the facility, unleashing terror on rival gangs and any other inmates they came across. Many were stabbed and shot. However, the vast majority were allegedly killed in fires set by the gang members, who ignited mattresses and then horrifically locked victims inside their cells with no escape. At the time of this recording, the death toll sits at 46. However, it seems likely that this number could increase as authorities continue to assess the situation and those with serious injuries fight for their lives in local hospitals. As for how a tragedy like this was allowed to unfold, officials say that they are still investigating, though it's well known that Honduran prisons have long had problems with items like drugs and weapons easily being smuggled inside. Even so, authorities apparently recovered a staggering amount of weapons from inside the facility following the attack, including at least 21 guns, dozens of machetes, and several grenades. Of particular interest to officials is determining how the gang members were able to roam freely from their section of the prison, and the fact that they appeared to be in possession of their own locks, which they used to trap victims inside of their cells. Cameras inside the prison were also systematically destroyed by perpetrators during the incident, further suggesting the attack was planned and coordinated. In the aftermath of the deadly riot, the country's security minister was fired and has since been replaced with the head of the national police. While the situation is currently under investigation, many have alleged that there were ample warning signs that something like this would take place well ahead of this week's tragedy. Loved ones of those killed in the attack say that they were told that the gang members were out of control with the facility and essentially had free reign of the prison. The situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.